Right. We are joined now by Reno in the wake of his news last Friday that he was stepping away after nearly 3 decades of coaching basketball. Reno, I know you've coached your own sons. You've coached young men who've become like sons to you. You've coached a wonderful group of young men who've inspired and done things well on the basketball court. What's been the reaction that you've received when this word got out? Some of those people, both close to you and those people who adore your community.
Well, I'll kind of be lighthearted about it to start out with it. I probably lost weight from crying the last week. It's been amazing. I don't use superlatives very often because I think they're overused in our society. You know, love, great, incredible, epic. Those are words that I don't use very often. But the feeling has been amazing and incredible. What some of my former players, former students, former colleagues, former opponents have said to me has just been more than flattering. I couldn't ask for a better response than those people that have let it be known how they feel about what we've tried to do through the years. And it brings something to me that every time we come to Quincy, my wife and I talk about this. And I'm not trying to sound arrogant or anything like that. I'm just saying that you call it the look. Mary will call it, that person gave you the look. And meant that she knows who you are. And then you're wondering, are they going to come over? And I've been in Quincy. Quincy has just been a great place for me to start my career and to be around. And the people there have been so good to me. They'll come over. I was eating a tower pizza one time with my family. Hey, sorry to bother you, Coach. I just want to let you know, I really admire the way you coach your team. We go, first of all, you're not bothering me. And second of all, I really appreciate that. And when that guy left, I looked at my wife, Mary, and I said, listen, honey, he could have thought that. But he took time out of his day to come over and say something to me. That is unbelievable to me. I can't get over that people I want to insist that this person knows how I feel, and it's in a good way. You know, I remember we had won a tournament at Unity, and we were playing Liberty, and my son was a senior. And after the game, people are trying to talk to me. I saw this guy over to my left, looked exactly the opposite of me. Long hair, tattoos everywhere, earrings, looked like a biker. You know, looked like he was from Hell's Angels. And so this guy keeps looking at me. And so I turn and look at him. I start walking. He's walking towards me. I go, this could be really good or really bad. We're going to find out in a minute, aren't we? So he comes over. He just looks me right in the eye, shakes my hand hard, and goes, Coach, don't go anywhere. We need guys like you. I said, well, sir, I really appreciate that. It's kind of coming from somebody that I don't know at all, wanting to let me know that I really appreciate it. So the outpouring has been just amazing. I mean, that's the best word I can use. And tears to my eyes all the time when I read them. And it's come from all facets. Like I said, people I coached against or coached with, players I coached against, my own players, students, administrators. It's been coming from all directions. Media guys, guy that kept score against us at some of our games were guys from Pittsfield let me know things that were on the radio there. So I've been getting it from all angles, and every angle has been a blessing.
I think I've known you well enough and long enough to know that there was never going to be a victory lap or a victory tour, which leads me to believe that you've probably sat in this decision for a while now, Reno. When did you know that this was it?
Well, after the season was over, I gave myself a few weeks, and the season never ends the way you want it to unless you're hoisting the biggest trophy. It's that simple. And if you're a competitive coach and have a passion for it, that is your ultimate goal every year. And it's only happened to me once. And so every year I was proud of my kids for their effort. I just love coaching them. But there was always something there that I'm going, we didn't get something done. I didn't do a good enough job with these guys. But after the season was over, I did my self-reflection. And it had been eating at me for a few years of when I'm going to finish and when I'm going to say goodbye. And you were right about that. I didn't want to tour everywhere we went, somebody saying something. I don't want any part of that to get in the way of, control freaks have a focus. They don't want anything breaking that. So I didn't want anything like that to go on. But I did realize that once I made the announcement, the flood would occur, and it has in a good way. But it's been on my mind for a few years. But after this year, it hit me as hard as any that I need to trust my gut and my instincts. You know, a good or a great coach has the ability to read body language, tone of voice, eye contact or lack of it with players or people. So I had to trust my own feelings where that was concerned. And my feelings were telling me it was time to step away. Now, to be clear, I resigned from coaching at West Hancock. I didn't retire necessarily. So everything's on the table from here on out. I have no timetable to go with that, but it'll have to be organic if I move on again. But another thing I want to make clear to people is this was my decision 100%. I had full support of my administration and the people around here at Warsaw, Hamilton, and Nauvoo. They've been extremely supportive. If they weren't supportive, they did make it known. But I would hope that the way things went down were the way they were supposed to, which is my decision. I wasn't forced out. It was up to me. And whatever I decided, I was going to be supported by my administration.
From the standpoint of you wear laws particularly hard, the games is almost toxic when it doesn't go the way you need it to reconcile it with your expectation level. How happy is Mary to see you step away and preserve some of your health? Because Reno, it's something, I'm not suggesting that you were in health or anything at all, but it does take an obvious toll on you, as anybody who's ever seen you from point A of point Z to a season can attest.
Yeah, you use the word of toxic. That's a good one. And I wear my heart on my sleeve, so it's seen by everybody. How I feel, we could even win a game if I didn't think we played well. It would be evident that I was upset. And you know, and I'll get to you talked about my wife Mary, and I'll get to that in a second. Get to her. She's a huge part of this decision as well. But you know, you always tell your players, try not to have regrets. But when you say that, everyone in the world's got regrets. You know, I'd have regrets if I stayed. I'd have regrets if I decided to go. I knew that. And the way I've approached people at certain moments, I wish I'd have done differently. I mean, I remember getting on my own son after a game about being a leader. It was basically about getting everything done after a game. And it reminded me of the movie Lords of Discipline when the guy running the plays looks at it, he goes, "Bubba, don't make me do your job again." And I didn't convey it that way. Like, so I really got on him hard because he was my son. And I felt that he should have known better than anybody. And I regret doing that, especially in front of one of his favorite teachers. I have regrets, but it came from, and it's not an excuse, but it came from the heart. You know, I never sugarcoat things unless they need to be sugarcoated. And so I've done things, I've conveyed my message probably in a way I wish I'd have done it differently sometimes, but I wasn't being phony. So with that, whether we've won or lost, I always evaluate, did we play well? And so Mary either has to hear it in the car or when we get home, and she's been just amazing and incredible to me, how she can take that and not let it go past that. And I will just snap about something, and she'll listen. She won't react until it's time for her to tell me something. So this has been, and another thing to be clear about, this is hard on her as well because she loved going to games. And she loved being there with me, and I love that she was. And so I don't want people to get the idea that, oh, she's relieved now that I'm done coaching. That is not the case at all. She's not relieved, but she wanted what was best for me. And I just told her this morning, I said, you know, you're the one that I'm going to be venting to about a lot of things. And I appreciate you being here and being able to help me through this. I said, I looked her in the eye yesterday and I said, honey, no matter what I go through, you make it better because you're there. That's as simple as I can put it. Every time you're with me, my life is better. And I said, I think that's you know, I tell her I love her every day. But I think that is more as important as anything to know. And she knows that her presence makes me feel better and makes me a better person.
I kind of shut my mouth off. I was talking on the radio the other day, and I kind of compared your version of basketball, perfect basketball in your head, to like Axl Rose trying to get Chinese democracy out of his head the right way for 6 years. That you have this vision, and when it falls short of that vision, it's really hard for you. Yeah. You don't have that weight weighing on you anymore with basketball, and I know you still love it, Reno. Is there something that you can do to keep plugged into basketball without holding yourself to that same rough standard that rips up your gut every year and allows you this winter to do some things basketball-wise that you haven't gotten a chance to do, like play steward to some of your coaches I know you admire so much?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Chris. That's a great question. And that has been something not weighing on my mind, but I've been thinking about and getting excited about, is that now I won't have a timetable I have to strictly adhere to. Practice starts at this time. It's this. You got to make sure you get the kids home in time to do their homework, and you don't want to overdo it because they're, you want to be energized. All that stuff, I don't have to think about anymore. But what I am thinking about, and I've said this for years, I've watched TV, and I've looked at Mary and go, I could commentate a game. I could do that, and that'd be fun. I'd love to go on the radio at some point and do a game with somebody. Just being the color commentary, not the stats guy, but just say, for the people at home, here's what we mean by when we say this or say that. Because when you use coach speak, a lot of people don't understand it. But to put it in layman's terms, I can convey that in such a way. It brings up Bob Costas. I'm like you're talking to a dog sometimes. Dog sees a squirrel and just takes off. Well, Bob Costas, one time, they went from television, and this is amazing to me how quickly he did this. I can still remember when he did it. They were having technical difficulties on TV, and he went to his radio mode and commentating about the game. He said, I'll turn it to radio mode now. And the way he was describing the game, now he was having to do play for play. And instead of just doing what you guys are watching the game, you see what's happening. Now I'm going to comment on what I think. Now he's got to comment on how the play is going. So he would segue from TV to radio that quickly. That impressed me to no end. I saw him do that. And so I wouldn't want to have to do that, but I'd like to do color commentary. I'd like to go to practice. You wouldn't believe how many coaches told me last year, when I talk to coaches I trust and feel comfortable with, hey, when I decide to hang it up, when I do, would it be okay for me to come to your practice? And to a person, they all said, you're welcome to my practice anytime. I said, remember you said that, because it might happen. I may walk in and go, what are you doing here? You told me I could come. And so being there and watching practice and giving my 2 cents, and if they use it, it's up to them. If they don't, that would be exciting to me as well. So all those things are on the horizon. Like you said, it's something that I've been looking at as a possibility to basically fill that void. That competitive void is going to be gone. And I need to fill that with something. The competitive spirit's got to be satisfied somehow. And I'm not somebody that wants to do online gaming and all that stuff, because that's not who I am. And obviously I don't want to go to the casino and lose everything that I built by making stupid bets. But I want to keep that competitive spirit going, and it'll be going through people that I feel comfortable with in the basketball world.
You made your announcement on Friday. You felt compelled on Sunday to go back to the 1998 state championship game and run it entirety on air on the same piece that we brought after you beat Spring Valley Hall. I want Reno now, looking back at that, can you ever fully appreciate being that moment when you're there, especially, gosh, that was 20 some odd years ago now, 25 some odd, 20 years ago. It was 22 years ago. I'm math is bad, but you kind of know what I mean. I mean, in that moment, this is the seminal moment of your life. And I look back and I saw the joy on your face then. When you think of that now, how do you think about it? Because I know you see every play still in your head.
There's so many little stories. I'll try to interject a few here and there. But first of all, I watched the movie When We Were Kings the night before I took off. And I'd be speaking at a clinic or something. I'd have the kids guess, what movie you think I watched before we took off? And they'd say Rocky. They'd say Rudy. Go, no. And those are great movies. Don't get me wrong, fellas. I said, When We Were Kings. They give us quizzical look. When We Were Kings. It's a documentary about the Ali Foreman fight. And everybody thought that the champ would get killed because he would not give up and he would get beat to death. That's what his fans were afraid of. And his confidence, telling him what was going to happen, and then flip the switch and do the rope-a-dope. He had this all planned out. He knew he was supposed to win. We can't say, I knew we would win. Nobody can say that. But you can say, I believe we were supposed to win. And we went to Peoria thinking we were supposed to win. I know we were underdogs, all that, but we had prepared for that. So that got me into that mentality. The guys understood our game talks and what we were going to do. And there's just so many little stories that I'll try to interject here that, before the championship game, I decided to play 11 post defense, which means we play behind the post and we drop and dig if we need to. But I knew Joe and Kenny and Emmett could handle that. And they knew how to play our switching man so well that they would stay near the post players as much as possible. And my thinking was, the two big guys for Spring Valley Hall were able to score on either pin lobs that they would throw to them or on offensive rebounds, which if they got the position, they could get them in putbacks. So we thought if we play behind them, they're going to have to be scorers now, not secondary scorers or complimentary. They're going to have to be the guys that they're looking. I didn't think they could beat us with our defenders. So I made that decision walking over to the arena. Just walking over, I said, that's what we're going to do. Because the kids asked me, when did you decide? And told them afterwards and when I did it. And they knew how to play it. And before the championship game, I let them sit in their rooms and just relax. We didn't even have a practice because at this point, they know what to do. And so pregame, we understood what we needed to do. We were ready to go. Now, before that game started, during the third place game, David Griffith, the kids asked if they could go watch the third place game. Sure, you guys go out there and watch it. I'm sitting in the locker room. David Griffiths decided to stay with me, and we're just have our feet propped up and go, you believe how great this is? We were as relaxed as could be. And then after the game, I don't want to sound – we're at a urinal next to each other. After the game, he goes, well, for now on, your life pretty much sucks, doesn't it? And you can go nowhere but down from here. So those little anecdotes of just the little things that were said, it just amazes me how comfortable we all were in that situation. Now, the other thing, I didn't know my dad was going to be there. So after the game, I'm walking around. All of a sudden, Shane runs up. He goes, Dad, Grandpa's here. And I turned and saw him, and he had tears in his eyes, and I got tears in my eyes. And, a couple of things he said to me. I wish your mother would have been here, my first mother. I always call my mother my first and second mother because both of them were mothers to me in any definition you can give. And so I wish your mother could have seen it. She'd been telling everybody, that's your boy. That's my boy. That's my boy. And also during the game, Dad was sitting next to my cousin Kelly, who had to pull some strings to get in because it said it was sold out. He flashed his Illinois State badge and his FBI badge, and I was able to get them in. And they sat right behind Spring Valley Hall's bench. So Dad got in when it was not supposed to be there, and by using credentials, he got right behind their bench. And so this guy next to my dad kept talking about how great their team was. And Dad didn't say a word, just like my dad did. At the very goes, as we're winning the game and the buzzer's about to go off, Dad goes, hey, he taps that guy, hey, see that boy down there? That's my son. He said he was like that and then walked off. And, those are little things Dad would do. And then the other thing that Dad told me, when we got back home, we had our celebration on July 4th. We'd always have a get-together on the porch. Him and I would be talking, at 2 or 3 in the morning, everybody else is gone. He'd tell me war stories. He'd tell me things. He looks me in the eye and he goes, son, you may not believe this, but you probably will. But your mother and I, to be my second mother, Faye, we were worried that you did this too early in your career. Now think about that. And I go, Dad, that implies that you knew that my teams that we were going to do this. He goes, yeah, I had no question you were going to do it. It just, we were afraid you'd do it too early. I said, it doesn't get any more flattering than that. That when your own father looks at you and says, no, that's not the big deal. The big deal is handling that situation from then on. And I think we did pretty good from that point on, but those are just some little anecdotes that go. And also, I know I'm rambling, but I was standing in the middle of that arena by myself, and the only person I could see was a janitor. And I had to yell to him, hey, can you tell me where my locker room is? There's 2 of us left in the arena. So I'm walking back to the hotel by myself at the greatest moment of my professional life. So those are little stories that are out there.
I know the 1998 is the exclamation point on a Hall of Fame career for you, but My coworker, Kurt LaBelle, once famously said of you that Reno Kingston could win 20 games with 5'8" fat kids. I mean, and that's sort of the enduring legacy of what you did. I mean, there were a lot of teams that you coaxed 20 wins out of that a lot of other coaches couldn't. Reno, I think I've had more people ask me that question about your career. How does Reno get it out of these kids year in and year out? Because every single roster I ever remember you having, I mean, 1998 wasn't even a perfect roster until after the fact. You were not the favorite. You were not the state-ranked team. You were not the prohibitive, consensus going in powerhouse. That kind of took place afterwards when you got it done, that people realized how good you were. But you've had so many different teams with so many different talent disparities that you were able to ask. Coaches ask all the time, how did you do that? All right, here's your chance.
Okay. First of all, you better have someone on that team that can score. All right. So believe me, if I got 5 lawn chairs out there, we're in trouble. So here's the thing. It's not easy to do, but you've got to build a bond with players to let them know and accept whatever role is best for them. And that comes through you building that bond off the court. So when you get there and you tell them something, they know they can trust you and they're going to follow you because of what they've seen every day. I believe what I see every day. The players hear me say that all the time. And so you have to have those kids be able to buy in, as they say. And we've been able to have kids buy in because of the rapport that we have with them. I'm not phony with them. I have a sense of humor with them. We have a great time after practice. Those bonding moments happen elsewhere, so that when you get together, those special things are capable of happening. So with that being said, players, you have to define what their role is, because they're defining it for you in practice. And they have to know that and accept it, even though mom and dad may not like it, that your son's doesn't have the ability to consistently score 25 a game. There's a reason why a certain kid's not being guarded as heavily, because he doesn't shoot it very well. That they've got to accept that at some point. That's going to carry through in life. In whatever profession you go into, you have to know where you fit in and where you can do your best. I've got a best friend that if you put him at point guard, he'll make it functional, but we're not going to win championships with him at point guard. And he uses those terminologies because he used to coach and won a national championship. Now he's in the medical business, and so you've got to put us where we will flourish for the best of themselves and the best for the team. So I've been able to do that with the bond that I built with them, through the trust that I built with them through the years. Now, as I said before, you have to have that bond for it to work. And then secondly, you have to have someone that can create space offensively. So you look at those teams I had that won 20 games, I could tell you every one of them, here was the guy that we ran things through. That was plan A. Plan B was this guy here, because of the talent, or maybe the lack of it at times from certain guys. They might play their butt off, which puts them on the floor. And to keep them on the floor, they have to keep doing that, because if you want to prove to me how good a three-point shooter you are, some people think, well, let me shoot that volume. That volume is going to show you how bad you are. You might go 5 for 11 in a game, but the year is going to show how good a shooter you really are. So don't think one game is going to define whether you're a shooter or not. You have to be consistent. So to answer your question, how do you do it? You have to build that bond, first of all. You have to let the kids know what their roles are, and they have to accept it. And by accepting it, that means they have to show you they mean it on the floor. They can say all they want. I tell my kids, I've actually made them say I'm sorry out loud. Say it, or else you're going to run for 30 minutes. Say it. They'll say, I'm sorry. I go, see how easy that is? You may not even mean it. You got to show me you mean it. So by building that with the kids, putting them in a successful role that'll be best for them and the team, but also you have to have someone that can score. And once you have that, you can put the other people, that chess piece, over here, over here, over here, and then you put them in what we call a comfort zone. Now, let's look at the 98 Bulls, all right? Since everybody's watching that on ESPN. The greatest role player on that team is Michael Jordan. You take away any of those players, Rodman was out, what'd he do? Increase his rebounding total, because he had to. Now, Dennis Rodman was maybe the greatest rebounder I've ever seen. Tim Parrish's ability to rebound was right up there. People think that's blasphemous, but no, I saw what Tim did. But Rodman was an incredible rebounder and defender. and he had a motor that was nonstop. But if you say, hey, Dennis, we're going to run everything through you offensively, you're going to end up with mush, absolute mush. And he knew that, and he knew the guys he had around him. So he was a great teammate. And Draymond Green, same way, great teammate, because he'll put himself where he needs to be to maximize. So I think it's got a three-tiered approach. You have to have an offensive player that can score. Guys have to know their roles and stick by them. And all that happens because they have a trust in you. They built that bond with you through that trust, that honesty, the fact that you're not phony with them. They feel comfortable around you.
That stuff for you, Reno, though, doesn't just start or end with basketball. That's teacher, that's being an influence in all ways. I saw Jack Luce's message to you, and I know some of that's a wrestler, a phenomenal wrestler who went to West Point. And I know some of that is obvious the West Point connection there. That kind of respect for people who are across the hallway from you, it's going to mean as much as anything when you're getting inundated with compliments. A kid that has done it that right in his life recognizes something in you that he says inspired him to make a similar move.
Well, I don't have to tell you, Chris, how that made me feel. When Jack posted that, I looked, my wife started bawling about it, and we break out into tears. And the funny thing is, he never played basketball for me, and that's what I want people to know is that if you don't play basketball for me, that doesn't mean we can't build a great bond. And Jack and I had that bond, even though I never coached him. And then I got something from Coach Minnis. I looked at my wife and said, "This is an ex-Navy SEAL. How do you think I feel when he says that?" And when he'd ask me for advice, I go, "Well, John, you probably got the answer already, but I'll give you my thoughts on what you're going through." And he would use them. And so, and getting back to Jack too, I was at a baseball game in St. Louis before the game, me and Kurt Niasen. But I told the story before in another interview about me first time I played him. What I didn't interject in that was that eventually Kurt got so good he beat my butt. But Kurt was with me at a baseball game, and I'm sitting at the bar that's right adjacent to the field before we go over. We're going to walk over after we're there. I have Willie Thompson from Cards that sees me, and we're sitting there talking forever. And then this guy comes up and had heard us talking and wanted to get involved with it. And he looks at me and goes, "You're a professional baseball player, aren't you?" I go, "No, sir, I'm not." I go, "Yeah, you are." I said, "No, I'm not." I had my ring on, and he goes, "No." I go, "No, I'm not. I'm a basketball coach." He goes, "Oh, really? I was listening to you guys talk a little bit." I said, he goes, "You mind if I get on the conversation?" And we start talking, and he asked me about coaching, and I'm basically addressing him like I'm addressing you now. And I started, and he said, I said, "One of my favorite sports movies is Vision Quest. And even though it's a wrestling movie, it's one of my favorite sports movies." He goes, "I'm a wrestler." I go, "Oh, that's interesting." So we start talking a little bit more about coaching, and he looks me in the eye. He goes, "I want to play for you right now." I go, "You don't play basketball, so I don't care. I want to play for you right now." I go, that makes me feel great. He goes, "Well, then can I buy you a beer?" I go, "Yeah, you can do that. That'd be all right." So we just had a great time. We missed the game by sitting there with those guys that whole game. But it meant everything to me to sit there with those people at that time. I was able to glance over to see how the game was going. But, yeah, that was one of my best trips to Busch Stadium was when I didn't even attend the game in the stadium itself.
Last one for you, Reno. I know you've had a lot of kids who post-basketball have gone on to amazing success. Some of them on staff now, where you work, which is really kind of neat. But just to see the circle on lives after basketball and to know that your kids, when real life geared up and, whatever stands up and it was divorce or sickness or financial problems, the things that hit us all, that they learn from you how to get through that and make themselves successful. Can you think of a better testament to your influence than that and their success?
Oh, that's what it's all about. I've told people this in practice. I'll tell them the sideline, I'll rip on them, and then I'll look at them and get emotional. I'll say, "Fellas, listen, if the only thing I teach you is how to dribble, pass, and shoot a basketball, I've done a lousy job as a coach." Most of the stuff that we talked about in practice was life lessons. That's what it was about. There's basketball in there, obviously, but it was life lessons on why would you, not what you did, why would you do that? Look to the guy next to you. Why would you do that to him? We're all in this thing together. And so the kids have told me through the years that those life lessons are the things that stuck with us, that, you're out there because in a voluntary competitive sport, and these guys next to you are doing the same thing. Don't let them down. You know, this has got to mean something to you past basketball. And if all you get out of it is what I just mentioned, then we're not doing our job well enough. I mean, it comes down to that simplicity, because those things about life we've talked about, they're going to carry over. You're going to see it. And you wouldn't believe how many guys would call me and go, Coach, you were right. I go, about life, about everything you told me about life. I go, remember when you were playing for me? I said, don't come to me 5 or 10 years from now and say, I get it now. Get it right now while you're playing for me, and then we'll tell other stories 5 or 10 years from now.